trillion is a 1 followed by 12 zeros. A trillion is about the gross domestic product of Mexico. Heck, is about 1/20th of American GDP, the richest country in the world. To put things in perspective, an average American's lifetime earning is about 1.8 million. A billionaire is 1,000 times richer. A trillionaire is 1,000,000 times richer. If you earned 1.8 million a day, it would still take over 2,000 years to get to a trillion. What does it take for someone to build that kind of wealth, and emphasis on build? Is it something we will see in our lifetime? Out of the current batch of billionaires, Zuckerberg, Warren Buffett, Jeff Bezos, could any one of them reach such staggering wealth? First, I want to point out that this video will only consider legitimate billionaires, as in people that have not amassed their fortune through obvious corruption or monarchy. Vladimir Vladimirovich Putin is suspected to have a net worth of about 200 billion, making him the richest man in the world. And honestly, that is without much effort. Considering that he can basically pick winners and losers in the great Russian oligarch battle, Putin could easily expand to a trillion given his power. If we consider family wealth, then trillionaires already exist. And if you want to be one, just rule a petrostate. Saudi Arabia's royal family is suspected to have a net worth of about $1.4 trillion, which is insane since the GDP of Saudi Arabia is about 700 billion. Here's a picture of the king of Saudi Arabia touching a glowing orb with Trump. This guy has absolute power. He could, with a snap of his fingers and an evil cackle, just claim that 1.4 trillion as his entirely, and no one could say anything to him. Really, it is possible for most despots to amass trillions, which is why I am not going to consider them. But amassing money legitimately has gotten more difficult. Even most billionaires seem to stop gaining wealth at about 100 billion. Why is that the ceiling? Well, unfortunately, most governments have strict anti-corruption or anti-monopoly laws that really slow things down. Not to mention that taxes are simply unavoidable. Yes, you can avoid paying the maximum rate, but the government will always get its cut. Uncle Sam never fails to get his wrinkly, old, liver-spotted hands into your pockets to grab his share. Pervert. How have people typically amassed wealth? John D. Rockefeller became the first official billionaire way back in 1916. His personal wealth was about 2% of American GDP. 2% of GDP is the difference between a recession and a healthy economy. Most people never made more than $2,000 a year back then.
Back in my day, you could buy a loaf of bread for a nickel. I didn't even know billion was a number. Nobody told us numbers went that high.
Okay, I'm going to stop doing the voices now. Rockefeller kept amassing wealth through his vertically integrated company, Standard Oil. The wealth and power of Standard Oil actually led to the first anti-monopoly, pro-competition laws in America. Adjusted for 2019 dollars, his net worth was about 400 billion. Unfortunately, the way he made his money by simply absorbing the competition and cutting out the middlemen, vertical integration or a monopoly, is no longer possible. Well, technically a monopoly is possible. Your local power company is a monopoly, but a normal business cannot be a monopoly. Similar morally dubious practices like price fixing, slander, Ponzi schemes, price gouging, like buying all the toilet paper in your town and then trying to sell it for $5 a roll, and whatnot, are also pretty much illegal. With that out of the way, the next option is to invest your money. But oddly, the richer you are, the harder it is to invest in a meaningful way. If you find a project that needs 2 billion in capital and triples your investment in 5 years, you'll have added 4 billion to your net worth. If you're Jeff Bezos, you've gone from 140 billion to 144 billion. Wow, much gains. So even with insane returns, it's tough to invest enough money into a project and have it make a big enough difference in your overall wealth. Of course, it is possible to make riskier investments that could make even more, but does it really make sense to gamble? If I gave you an option that you can have either $100 billion guaranteed or a 10% chance at 1 trillion, what would you pick? If you're a sane person, I think you would take the guaranteed 100 billion. The third and final option is to simply just wait and let the markets and inflation take its course. Global wealth as a whole is increasing. Eventually, there will be a trillionaire. You could just park as much money as possible into index funds, which have historically always gone up. Make a trillion on autopilot. This is pretty much a guaranteed way to get to a trillion, but it is the slowest. So, who will be the first legitimate trillionaire? With all the mechanisms of wealth generation out of the way, out of the current batch of billionaires, who is the most likely to actually have a legit trillion? The obvious answer is Jeff Bezos, who is, at the time of this video, already 14.5% of the way to a trillion. He has also increased his worth by over 30% in the past 5 years. So, not only is he gaining wealth really quickly, but he is also currently the richest. Although Bezos owns many businesses, the largest driver of his wealth is Amazon. You've probably heard of them. They only sell everything. Amazon Web Services and the Amazon e-commerce platform are leaders in their respective fields. If Amazon continues to increase revenues as expected, then Bezos could be a trillionaire by the end of the decade. But everything needs to go perfectly. Here's what could slow him down or stop him entirely from making it to a trillion. First, even though Amazon is huge, they really don't make that much money. 2019 revenue was an insane 280 billion, but net income was only 12 billion. Making only 4.5% profit per year is actually pretty bad. Plus, this was a good year for Amazon. Usually they break even or lose money. Investors have been really patient with Amazon, but nothing they're doing is very special. They have market power through size, but they lack any distinct IPs or trade secrets that make them unique. If a more profitable competitor comes along that does the same thing as Amazon, then nothing will really stop investors from jumping ship to the other guy. Amazon could very well become another Yahoo. The other billionaires on the top 10 list face similar issues. Some of them, like Mukesh Ambani of Reliance, the huge energy company, or Zuckerberg, have limited growth opportunities. They already own massive stakes in businesses that can only grow so fast and get so big. Could an underdog beat any of these guys to a trillion? Yes, it is possible that someone else could rocket past any of the people I mentioned before. The guy who cures cancer, or more importantly, male pattern baldness, will be a trillionaire overnight. I would sell my kids to buy a pill that could grow my hair back. Most bald men feel that. If you have a bald dad, he would sell you for a pill that would give him full, luscious hair. Go ask him, he won't deny it. And if he does deny it, he's lying. Okay, seriously though, personally, I think Elon Musk has the best chance of making it to a trillion. I know, Elon, the leader of the most annoying cult. Elon fanboys are so irritating. Has anyone ever had a conversation with a Musk boy and not gone into blinding rage? Can you imagine Elon's ego if he's the first one to make it to a trillion? It's already the size of the Hindenburg. Can you imagine the Elon fanboys? God, pure nightmare fuel. But seriously, I have good reasons to believe why he has the best chance. He may not be the first because others have such a huge lead over him, but it is inevitable for him. Yes, he is involved in a bunch of pioneer stuff like SpaceX and the Boring Company, but that stuff won't make him money fast, if ever. His way to the top is, of course, Tesla. He owns a resource no other person on the planet has. He owns the largest electric car charging network in the world. Imagine how rich you'd be if you owned all the gas stations. All automakers are moving towards EVs, but it doesn't make sense to spend billions setting up your own unique charging network. At some point, they will work something out with Elon to let their cars use his stations. So even if he doesn't sell you a car, you will eventually have to pay Tesla to charge up your EV. Then there is self-driving. Tesla is decades ahead of the competition. Most of the other guys just figured out how to make a non-laggy touchscreen. So how many years will it take them to develop their own self-driving tech? If we assume in the next 5 years Tesla will have basically perfected self-driving, which I think is pretty reasonable, it will make all other types of vehicles obsolete. It will bankrupt every rideshare service within a month. If there's a self-driving Tesla cab versus a regular Uber, I think most people will always go for the AI Tesla. From an investor point too, it solves all the gig worker, legal issues, worker rights, sexual harassment, whatever, that have hounded Uber and Lyft. Not to mention, a self-driving Tesla taxi will be a godsend to women. If there is an AI Tesla cab, Uber will lose all female customers overnight. Who wants to deal with the Uber creep?
Plus, OMG, you're like totally saving the planet. Hashtag ego girl.
I know that Tesla is not in the rideshare market, but it is the next logical step if they actually perfect their self-driving tech. From there, it's not difficult to imagine Tesla ruling the entire transportation industry. Everything from snowplows to UPS to 18-wheeler semis could be using their tech. To put things in perspective, the trucking industry alone is worth $700 billion. I also don't think Tesla has any legitimate competitors. Waymo, the other self-driving car company, may have a more sophisticated product, but they do not have Tesla's brand recognition. Plus, they lack a charging infrastructure and a fanboy hype army. Elon Musk will pretty much have a monopoly on all road-based transportation. Tesla hardware, Tesla software, all using the Tesla charging infrastructure. Elon will do for transportation what Rockefeller did for energy. We'll have to see if the government forces him to break up Tesla. In any case, that won't really stop him from being a trillionaire. Even though he currently only has a net worth of $37 billion, chump change, I know, I think he could very realistically blow right past everyone else on the list to be the world's first trillionaire. By the way, there is a lot of Elon Musk fan fiction out there. I mean, just look at some of this. He approached the couch you were lounging on, placing a clammy hand on your fully clothed shoulder. You shivered. You could smell his sweet, sweet musk. It took all of your strength not to sniff that calloused and sweaty hand. Your hand grazed his. What, Elon Musk? Beaming, he pulled out a wrinkled spreadsheet. It was full of numbers, investments most likely, and the ink was smeared where his fingers glided across the paper. At the bottom, a figure was engulfed in a bright yellow smear. Oh my god, we are doomed as a species.